As we've learned from my previous video, the word of popular influencers can significantly drive up a car's value, but in the same regard, negative words can also drive down the value. So here are 5 cars that YouTubers depreciated. The first car on this list, the Nissan GTR R35. It was depreciated by YouTubers for a very unique reason. Whereas a lot of the other cars on this list suffer from reliability issues and bad press, the Nissan GTR had such good press that it was seen as too mainstream. Yeah, imagine that. Turns out that whether people want to admit it or not, we all have a little bit of hipster in us, and the sheer prevalence and popularity of the GTR was its sole downfall and reason for its value dropping, because people were just genuinely tired of hearing about it. Though if you could care less about its popularity and don't mind the annoying hipsters and fanboys, the GTR is admittedly a decent car, especially for the prices they're going for. For as low as 45 grand, you can get an all-wheel drive, front-engine, oversized driving computer on wheels. While that may be a turn-off to most hardcore enthusiasts, I can definitely see the appeal to being a driving computer to a lot of non-car people, which is why a lot of non-car YouTubers even ended up buying GTRs. If anyone is seeking a easy and consistent way to break the 3-second 0 to 60 barrier and just essentially have a launching rocket everywhere you go, this is the car for you. The only downside to the GTR aside from its popularity was that it did have bad transmissions in the early models, but that eventually got fixed from the facelift onwards in 2012, and let's be real, when you see the rest of the cars that we're about to talk about in this video, the GTR is by and far the most reliable one here, so it is the one in my opinion that did not deserve to be as cheap as it is now, and part of me thinks that is mostly due to the fact that it is also a Nissan. But whatever, their loss, your gain. The second car on this list is actually just a whole company, because I didn't want to waste a whole video on different entries. Regardless, it's any Maserati. The Ghibli, the GT, the Vivante, it doesn't matter. They all fell to the wrath of honest consumer reviews. Ever since Fiat Chrysler started making Maseratis, they've been a fall from grace. They've ranked in dead last in many consumer reports, and their true status becomes even more apparent to the public as they continue to fall. They used to be insanely popular in China, and especially loved by female buyers all around the world because, ooh, Maserati, Italian. Because Ferrari and Lamborghini, despite being Italian, were a bit too unattainable for them, so this was their little bridging middle gap. Having said that though, before the turn of the decade, Audi and Mercedes finally started to pay more attention to China, which gave Chinese people more access to far more competitive, faster, luxurious, more updated, and more reliable options. And let's be real, any modern Mercedes, Audi, and BMW is going to far outclass a Maserati in every single right, from build quality to reliability, to luxury, to performance, and technology especially. As for the female appeal, even that started to disappear when tons of automotive YouTubers started to spread the word. Hey, it's just a glorified Fiat Chrysler disguise, but it's worth supercar prices and has fake prestige of one despite actually just being a giant plasticky lack of technology. You get the point, it's not that great of a car. I'd say it's time for a funeral if anything, but the deep-rooted Maserati fan within me hopes they someday come back. I don't know where they'd even start. I mean, their new car isn't all that exciting to me. But hey, if you are okay with buying one used, cheers. The prices are finally starting to bottom out for most of their cars, and they aren't bleeding tens of thousands anymore. They're at a much better place for you to buy them used than they are new. Please do not buy them new. They're not worth the penny. There are just so many better cars you can buy instead. Range Rover. These have always sucked. YouTube reviewers just finally brought that to light. Back in a time filled with paid-off journalists and magazines, it was hard for local mechanics to spread information through word of mouth alone. However, thanks to YouTube, there now exists a platform where individuals can broadcast all the atrocities free from manufacturer bias. That's not to say that those same magazines and paid-off journalists aren't also using YouTube, but they aren't the only ones who have the ability to, is what I'm trying to say. People love these individuals who spread the word truthfully. A lot of things I want to point out while talking about the Range Rover is that most people buy them straight up as a status symbol, but even then, I never really got the rage. All SUVs look the same to me, excluding the G-Wagon maybe. Here's a rather hilarious anecdote on the subject. My brother Omni, he shared with me a story of his coworker. She took a loan out worth more than $100,000 to buy a brand new Range Rover, only to be plagued with reliability problems basically the moment she got it. She tried to sell it and to rid it off of her hands as soon as 4 months into ownership. And sure, it had a warranty because duh, it's brand new, but that doesn't mean, like I said before in this channel, you can always get money back, you can always make another resume, apply for another job, but you can't ask the Grim Reaper for time. There were periods of time where she just wouldn't have her access to her Range Rover for months on end. I think the longest period was like 6 months. And after 2 years of just putting up with the car, she finally managed to get rid of it, and of course accrued a massive depreciation before it finally left her hands. The worst part of it all, initially she only got it because she just wanted to show off, and the funny thing is she drove all of her friends around with it, and suddenly when she stopped driving them, they wondered why, and eventually she had to tell them, look, it's because my Range Rover keeps breaking, to which most of them replied, wait, that was a Range Rover? I just thought it was the new Ford Explorer. That story alone should hopefully make you realize people really don't notice. Like, imagine taking a big fat loan just to flex and no one even realized it. That's one of the biggest L's you can take in your life. Most people, especially if you're just giving friends free rides or just carpooling with them, they don't care to look at the badge on the back. They just glance at your car, then they open the door and get in. If you really do want this glorified Ford Explorer, get a used one with an extended warranty. If you must have the latest and greatest model, I recommend leasing. And that is a very rare time I ever recommend leasing, but that's because that way you don't eat the depreciation. Even though you don't keep the car after the 3 years is up, in my opinion, it's better because you get to experience the newest model. And the best part of leased cars is because it goes back to the dealer. When you bring it in for warranty, they actually fix it on time. You won't be the one put at the end of the back orders like the people who bought the car is. It's kind of counterintuitive. You'd think buying the car gives you better treatment, but usually dealers don't like it. Moving on to the next one, the Lamborghini Huracan. This one depreciated for a very similar reason that the GTR did. It just became way too popular, again amongst YouTubers. This ended up turning off a lot of aspiring millionaires and business owners who usually want Lamborghinis because they didn't want to be put on the same level as someone they perceive to be some home video schmuck because they're boomers and don't understand how YouTube works. Regardless of that, this massive exposure continued on its advance to the point that so many influencers, not just on YouTube but across all platforms and backgrounds, ended up getting a Huracan. So much in fact that the car no longer is special. I mean, I see more Huracans than I do Gallardos, and that's actually a factual statement, not a personal anecdote at this point, because Huracans have exceeded the Gallardos production numbers officially confirmed by Lamborghini themselves as of October 2019, making it the new poor man's Lamborghini. Now, this title never really made much sense to me because it's rather contradictory, because nothing about a Lamborghini is poor. The good news is the Gallardos price is now starting to rise back up thanks to the fact that it no longer holds this title. But whether I want to admit it or not, people do use this phrase, poor man's Lamborghini. It's a phrase that is very widespread, so because of that, whatever, I get it. That's the new title of the Huracan. And whether you want to accept that or not, that is the reality now. That doesn't mean the car is any lamer, to me at least. For all the people who do buy them for status, and I'm not gonna lie, a majority of people do just that, they're turned off by that, and that's why its price started dropping, because they no longer were like, wow, I can't feel special and unique buying this car anymore. It's not worth that high barrier of entry, so they don't quite hold their value as well as any other Lamborghini ever did. But you know what? That's some good news for the real car guys out there who just want some sweet V10 action and they could care less about feeling unique or whatnot. So keep your eyes on those dropping Huracan prices. And final side note, the second most reliable car on this list, yeah, go figure that out, a Lamborghini is the second most reliable car in a video that I made, and that's because ever since Audi owned Lamborghini, they cleaned up the Huracan a lot, and if you know anything about its V10, it more or less is the same V10 from the V10 Plus. It's a very well sorted car. A lot of YouTubers have praised this car, not just to the point of buying it, but also because they said it's the first Lamborghini you could actually daily drive. And finally, on to the last car of this list, the BMW i8. Imagine spending 150 grand to look this flashy, but still lose not just to a 30 grand Mustang, but also to a fellow BMW that's much cheaper. Like for example, a brand new BMW M2, it's gonna run circles around the i8. It's not just on the track, but also on the drag strip. It's kinda sad when the own company's cars just made another one of their cars irrelevant. This farce of a price was quickly snuffed out, and the prices of i8s took a major plummet, all the way down to 80 grand, where they fixed for a few years. But then YouTubers released their ultimate finishing move, unlimited depreciation works.
then in 2 years you should be able to snag one of these for around $50,000.
Which brought the i8's price all the way down to below 60 grand, where you can consistently find models selling around 58 grand. And rightfully so, in my opinion, because at that price, it's still a slow car. There are a lot of cars you can buy at that price that aren't just faster, but more luxurious too. Like I said, another BMW, like an M2 is a better option at that point. But if you want style, it does make sense for 60 grand. Sure, it's not the fastest car, but for 60 grand, where else are you going to get gull-wing doors? And this flying buttress in the rear, like, not gonna lie, from a styling standpoint, the i8 is still extremely exotic, and for the price of 60 grand, under 60 grand I should say, that makes sense. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks for watching, happy hunting, and see y'all next time. Bladed Angel out.